So we're back today for another episode of Lewis and Friends, focusing on AI's climate conversations, specifically the work of our climate solutions portfolio and our grant making. And today I'm excited to welcome Dr. Siva Pariti to join us to talk a little bit about the program that we're collaborating with you on in Bangladesh. And we're also joined with Pauline from our team, who's going to be sharing the perspective of AII's technical approach to evaluating programs across our criteria for the climate solutions portfolio, and specifically this one and why it meets a lot of the really important goals that we have at AII for the industry at large. So with that, I'll just welcome you both. Nice to have you back with us, Pauline and Dr. Siva. Nice to have you here. So I'm going to start in, Dr. Siva. Just tell us a little bit about your background. I think those of us that have been working closely with you know you well, but I would love for the listeners of this podcast to learn a little bit more about why we know you're so special. So tell us about yourself.
Thank you, Luis, and the team. I am Siva Pariti, working with as the Senior Technical Marketing Officer at BluWin, and I am a chartered colorist and having a PhD from the Intermediates and Desktop Technology stream. I've been in the industry for almost like 20 years in chemicals first, and then textile and apparel sector later on, and more than 2 decades of experience, and with 14 years in BluWin. And in BluWin, I am right now is a parent company of Sustainable Textile Solutions, and was established in 2012. And the services are more or less extended more than 40 countries across the globe, which is actually working on chemical and environmental aspects.
And as I said earlier, you've been a friend to us in this work for a while. And I think that we're going to talk a little bit more about our strategy for, bringing in partnerships, but early stage in our grant making, working with proven solution providers and partners is really key because we know we can get the results that we're looking for. And so you've been working with AII for a while. Tell us a little bit about the work you've been doing with the organization.
Yeah, so we have been working with AII from the beginning in the chemistry field and the chemistry and energy and wastewater field for a long time. And in developing and designing, I've been fan of the CBD program for a long time. And then when you brought up about wanted to have the similar kind of approach with chemistry and wastewater as well, that was the time when we had all come together and worked together. And at BluWin, the reason why it was fitting the bill is because probably we are not having only one-centric experts. At our in our organization, we have toxicologists, we have chemists, we have process technologists, we have engineers, mechanical, chemical, and electrical. All of us are going to the same factory, looking at different aspects, exchanging ideas, and talking to each other, and becoming stronger. Everyone, we are making people understand each and every aspect, and understanding why a particular factory is doing that particular thing, and why not the others, why it is working in some factories and why it is not others. So that is what is giving us the learning experience. We are having around 1400, 1500 factory visits in a year. And it's not only one company or one person going and doing the routine job. So that's, I think, is the perspective where we are learning about engaging with the factory and understanding the manufacturer's point of view, rather than this is a solution, go and plug and play. That's not what we are doing. So that is, I think, probably is the giving the perspective which probably we are bringing to the table. And when it comes to impact creation, the AI is all about impact creation, not just solution sharing. Sure, solutions and knowledge sharing can happen, but when you want to create impact, you need to convince the second party and the opposite party, which is the manufacturer, who is taking the risk and who is taking the implementation. It requires some support. It could be a moral, technical, and technological support and handholding. That is where probably we are doing, and that's the program is where all about with AII, which we are doing it in terms of chemical and wastewater, why I would say it is even more difficult is in terms of energy, it will give you ROI. In terms of chemical manufacturing, chemicals management, or wastewater treatment plant upgradation, there is no ROI business. It's all compliance. There's only one way of money spending, but not really getting the real business case benefit for most of the people, which they think. So that is where the perspective came in, and when we wanted to work together, the CBD program development was an experience of its kind.
So this specific program now that we're going to be working on through the Climate Solutions portfolio moving forward, as I understand, is really expanding upon the current Clean by Design model and program, but taking it with kind of two key strategic approaches. One is that what you just described, that really focused direct to supplier relationship building and really carrying it direct to supplier, which I want to hear why that's different than what we've done in the past. And then also the focus on Bangladesh. This is a program for Bangladesh, correct?
Yeah. The Clean by Design energy program, I've always been a fan of it because it is 10 best practices. It's made so simple. I was the fan of Linda as well at that time. Yeah, it's how things can made simple, the yet not simple. So it is, and it is supposed to be low hanging fruits. By the way, if every factory can plug and play and manage on those 10 best practices, they can definitely get the benefits. Sometimes the benefits could be even less than a year. So it makes the money well worth spending. However, what is more important is to understand is after working in all these factories, including in Bangladesh, why Bangladesh comes into picture, everything which is very close to heart is number one, a maximum number of factories, which is still a very big sourcing hub and manufacturing hub where the emissions are very important and very big. And the number two is the culture of the Bangladeshi mills is they are willing to listen to you. They're waiting, and they probably there where you can influence the right things. If you do it right, probably you will get bigger impact. And that is where Bangladesh is very close to most of the places as well. But when it comes to CBD, though it is low hanging fruits, we say that it is low hanging fruits. Many times these low hanging fruits are so common that it is applicable still in almost all factories across Bangladesh industry. I would say less than a percent where the low hanging fruits are not applicable. Probably there we need CBD plus. So this is where it is. We have to a long way to go still. We have to implement all these low hanging fruits in across all the factories. Make sure that everyone becomes more efficient, more resource reduction and less decarbonization process. The first part of the decarbonization journey is resource efficiency, and that is what is CBD giving you. And most importantly, what is also the difference between this program and all other existing programs? Because there are many other programs existing in the world for a long time. They have been doing in energy reduction and resource efficiency and decarbonization programs. The difference here is this is not just telling you a mill what they should do, because that's in all other cases we know. What is to be done, everyone knows. How it needs to be done, and what is the first step, and what is the next step, and how it needs to be done so that it becomes more effective, more impactful, and value for the money which they spend. That's the biggest chunk currently in the CBD program. That's where what is the difference you asked. The point of engagement with the factories on how the specifications need to be specified, how to communicate the specification, what they wanted to get in from the suppliers or vendors, and how to select the vendors, how to engage with the vendors, what discussions need to be done technically. I'm talking about not commercial, on technical basis. Why, which technology and which type of technology, which type of equipment, which type of added additional processors is what is most important, where we have to do the support. And that is where Bangladesh needs support. In fact, most of the countries do not have this kind of skill set to engage with the vendors. And what happens is, whatever vendor is giving, will end up into the factory. Now, many a times, vendor probably is not actually giving what a factory needs, but what they have, what fits the bill. And that is where most of the times we still see that, oh, many mills have adopted the technologies, but still not achieving the percentage reductions based on the initial calculations. And that is a reason for that. And that reason is capacity building and engagement. So that is what I think we wanted to bring into the table. And once we create this capacity building and bridging the gap and making sure that things go right and every penny which is spent is well spent, probably the confidence level for the factories will increase, and then they can start believing in it that decarbonization is possible and it is really rewarding. Then it will go into a ripple effect, and then you will see every factory can start believing in it. So this is the process. If a factory is believing it, then word of mouth will happen and everyone else will start believing it. So that is what we wanted to see in this program, and I feel that's the difference in my view.
You know that we have been putting together strategies at AII around how to increase the role that the supplier plays in informing AII and also co-designing a lot of this work. And so I love that this particular program is also looking to build those deeper relationships and collaborations with the suppliers in a way that we're not just learning about them from the brand retailers we may work with, but we're directly building those relationships. And I think also the other thing that stands out to me for listeners of this podcast who aren't familiar with the sector, they may wonder why Bangladesh is so important. But for anyone who works in the sector, and specifically a lot of the brand retailers that are supporting AII's work as well, it is a primary focus region for where the carbon is, where the factories and the work are, and it's ready for this stage of work, right? It's makes up a pretty textile apparel makes up a pretty large percentage of the GDP of the country, as I understand. Yeah, good. So Pauline, I'm kind of cutting into your space a little bit, but I want to hear directly from the AII team and staff perspective. You represent our impact team and also our climate solutions portfolio evaluation process. And so we've shared this a little bit in previous podcast discussions, but the role that you play for the organization is also to facilitate the connection between our expert advisors back to the evaluation of this work and also represent sort of AII's strategy and team approach towards the work. So that being said, why did this stand out to you in particular? And then why did it stand out to our advisory committee as well? What was so unique in your mind about reaching, specifically if we look at that criteria that you talk about, effectiveness, reach, and scale?
So from an effectiveness perspective, we know that Clean by Design works. It's going to deliver the carbon emissions impact that it promises. And, that's a really important part of what we're funding is we want all of our grant projects to deliver mission impact. And this project we know is going to do that. So it was a very solid bet from that perspective. From a reach and scale perspective, this Clean by Design program focuses on tier 2 and tier 1. So we know that it's broadly applicable across the sector. And with this project in particular, we're looking at a new geography which has a lot of untapped potential for energy efficiency. So while the concept of energy efficiency is not new, there is a lot more energy efficiency to take place in Bangladesh and indeed all countries, but in particular in this one, which, as you kind of alluded to, it's the second largest export of garments in the world. So, it really is quite a focus for the sector. And then, as Dr. Siva mentioned, it's this ripple effect that we were really interested in. So that's where we get into the scale. So taking this direct to manufacturer approach where you're doing the capacity building and then having that story shared to other manufacturers so that it does ripple throughout the sector there and that there is an increased uptake in these types of energy efficiency programs. That's what we really wanted to unlock because, as I said, lots of potential for more energy efficiency to take place. And I think, what Dr. Siva was alluding to as well is that once you have done these first low hanging fruits and you believe, yes, this is beneficial to my business, it's obviously good for the environment, then the floor is also ripe to then do the more advanced projects that maybe need a bit more investment from the facility, more time, or more complex, but will also deliver the benefits that we need. So we think it's a really great journey to kind of take these suppliers on to then extend throughout the country.
And for listeners who may not know the whole history about Clean by Design, I think it's important just to make a note that it was a program that was developed under the NRDC that Dr. Linda Greer, who we mentioned earlier, was the creator of and executed that program in facilities in China originally. And so when AII was founded, that program was able to come over to AII as a fostered initiative. But the reality is, we want to share it with the world. It's not necessarily our IP or our proprietary program. It is a common sense set of best practices we want deployed. And so to me, it seems like this is a great opportunity for us to demonstrate how it is being expanded beyond AII through partnerships like BluWin. Siva, I'm curious to hear, how is the money valuable? I think we talk about the climate solutions portfolio itself is even more meaningful sometimes than the dollars that we're able to apply, because now it's included as a verified program that we want to introduce to suppliers across these regions that we're working in. But money always helps, right? So tell me a little bit about how the grant and the funding that's coming to BluWin for this is going to be used and why that's meaningful.
Yeah. So money is always important, and that's the most important aspect, I would say. Till now, I think whatever programs were existing were top-down, brand-driven, or an NGO-driven, or an institution-driven programs. Institution could be IFC, could be NRDC, or some other organizations. So what is essentially happening is there is an agenda, there is a KPI, there is a target, and they have to achieve the target over a certain period. Now, after analyzing for a long time and understanding this program, what we are actually now started is not a plug and play program. Actually, we have understood the pain points, the bottlenecks, what went well, what did not go well, why did not go well, through the manufacturer's engagement. So when we are looking at the manufacturers are looking for something else, and we are driving them to somewhere else, because our job is we wanted that to happen rather than manufacturers. That particular job probably is in stage 4 or stage 5, and he is now looking at stage 1. So there is a small mismatch between what was happening, what is expected by the manufacturer, and what is expected driven by the project from whichever organization it was. Having said that, there is this money where everyone have to pump in and put in, and at this stage, even during the COVID and after this COVID, investments have dried up from the manufacturer side. And anything which is for saving, of course, it is still relevant, but they are thinking twice. Plan of actions and roadmaps are there, but putting down the investment and the penny is still dried up. So this is the right time for us to tell to a manufacturer, guys, we are there for you. Don't worry. We will help you to reach that, and it is possible. Now that small patting is what is this gesture. This money is going to have a ripple effect again, I would say, from the manufacturer's point of view, to one, tell them that what is the right thing to do, and two, even if you are not having that money, let's do it for you. Then you believe in this project, then things will change, because it's only matter. Things will not remain like this forever. It's a matter of time. But during this time, the investments and the money is not happening from the manufacturer side. So that is why this funding has a very big impact on this, and because of the direct manufacturers also. So the direct manufacturers program getting the funding is a real big booster for the industry, in my view.
You're also bringing up an important point that we're looking at with the role of sustainable finance, not just the grant making dollars, but also the role of potential equity investors, commercial banks, development banks. And I could just kind of tease out a spoiler alert that you're going to be with us this next month. By the time this airs, maybe you're already with us, but you're going to be with us at the Rockefeller Foundation's Bellagio Center to dive in with some of the suppliers, brands, banks, development banks, and we're going to really go into a 4-day workshopping to come up with new solutions that complement what you're just addressing, which is the money is needed and it needs to be incentivized by the supplier. It's not just here's debt, but hey, here's a strategy for incentivizing the value chain to make these choices. And there's a lot of different market drivers that will need to change in order to do that. So I love that you're bringing up the value of the resources behind this is critical to get the work done. As good as knowing what it is to do, we also have to incentivize and then have resource flow enable that, right?
Yeah, correct. And in fact, at the right time, what we are doing this is the time where investment is needed from our end to ensure that the actions are taken at the right time. 1 year later, if we incentivize it, it's almost gone. 1 year is gone, and 2030 is coming soon. So I think it is an action time and impact creation time, and we cannot delay it further. So that's why I think the CSP grant is happening at the right time for me. And this is going to go beyond just identifying opportunities to improvement, but also making sure to create the robust ecosystem of the making sure that the business capacity building, identifying the right business, and as you rightly said, all the players and all of them coming together so that the strategy is multiplying it. And then when the business case is ready, just plug and play and scale it up.
Well, and that's why we're calling this catalytic capital, the Fashion Climate Fund, and the use of the climate solutions portfolio we want to catalyze. And so this program that you're talking about and the way you describe it to me feels very catalytic for Bangladesh, specifically to the nature of this type of work. Sounds like you agree. I see you nodding. Good. Pauline, anything to add to that in your observations around this work and sort of the catalytic nature of this particular program?
Well, yeah, I think it's a really good example of how the grant funding links into our vision for the blended capital strategy. Some of the low-hanging fruits that are identified maybe don't need such a big capex investment, but some of them might. So the fact that we are able to offer a grant-funded program to assess what those needs are, and then we also have a strategy to help the facilities access the financing to do those investments that might be a little bit bigger. I think that's what also really kind of ensures the durability of our programs, that we're able to support facilities throughout the entire journey. So yeah, really looking forward to making those two strategies come together as we embark on this project.
And then Siva, what's next from this phase? How do you plan to continue this work after this first funding round? How will it grow?
I think, as you rightly said, this is catalytic. So our main objective is, of course, also taking a cue from what Pauline just said, is the blended capital or investment and how much. Most importantly, there were fundings available for the factories, but more than what the need is. For example, in some cases, probably 10 million is what we will give you because all our funding is more than 10 million stock. And all they need to invest is only 200,000 or 500,000. As in that case, probably mills are doubling it or wasting that and all that. So what is also important through this program is what is the extent of the funding needed and when, and then create the clear roadmap of which can work together to spiral it. So that is the business case which we're expecting. Once this kind of business case is expected and then made available to the mills and made them understand how things should be done, that will create a ripple effect. So what next is, once these 12 mills are done, these 12 business cases, what went well, what did not, why they took that decision, why they did not take this decision, though that was a possibility. These kind of analysis, when they share to 400 mills, in my view, I wanted to go with the top 250 emitters, and most of them probably still exist in the big manufacturing industry. Could be India, could be Bangladesh, could be Turkey, could be South Central America, or could be in Southeast Asia. All these places, they have something common, something different. So what we are looking at is not to create or choose all similar kind of mills, but we are choosing the mills which have a different possibilities of scaling up. So these stories, success stories and business cases, sometimes I wouldn't say everything may not be expected that it is a success story, but every action is a learning for us. Why they took that decision and why they did not take the decision. So it's not just a measure of, oh, this much we saved, then we are going in the target mode. I'm not looking at that. What I'm looking at is why they did not do, and why not. And then we create an ecosystem so that they can take the decision right. So this 12 mills is a learning process for us. Every mill has a different yardstick and different perspective, which can be created as a learning for us to scale up to more than 250 mills probably. And these success stories will catalyze to the next scale up possibilities. So we will be having a big learning curve. Manufacturers will go through a big learning curve. In fact, they will teach us why it is working and why it is not working. And we are not going to teach. It's a collective learning which we will have, and collective action which will happen. And that is where we can get back and sit and then say that, okay, we have this funding, we have this technology, we have these solutions, this is technology, this is capacity building. Let's do all and then create what is needed for the mill so that we can create impact. So creating the ecosystem and infrastructure for well preparing and ensuring that the impact is created is what is the next step for me. And global, we will then go global. What can work in Bangladesh can probably work in other places, and we will understand what are the missing links and everything. So gap identification is the learning process for us then.
It's creating that flywheel too. It's leveraging what I think AI can do well, which is, we call it like the tip of the spear. This is what success looks like. And it's not just a pilot, because I think this industry has been stuck a little bit in pilot phase. This is beyond pilot. This is what implementation looks like that is scalable. And then to demonstrate multiple examples and cases of where it's working over and over and over and over in different regions, in different processes with different facility owners. I love the way you describe that. And I think that's the role that AI can play, because we know that, there's gigatons of carbon to remove that we won't touch because we're not that big. And we also know from our research that it's most likely $1 trillion investment opportunity to decarbonize. And we think we can do 2 billion of that. So we can demonstrate through a number of great stories over the next 6 years what we've done that is that cutting edge tip of the spear. But this is all to be replicated, right? We're changing the market. We want others to follow.
And basically, we are creating the mindset and the change management. It's a shift in the mindset and the change management, because otherwise technologies and solutions are already available. What we are doing is matchmaking and educating and transformational to the mindset, and then create that networking. I think that is what is missing. Otherwise, every technology, we are not recreating it. We are not innovating. We are getting the innovations, identifying them and scaling it up and plugging it. And so AI is actually the fulcrum of this big flywheel.
Mm-hmm. I love that. The fulcrum of the flywheel. Perfect. That's a good ending point, I think. But I do want to ask one last question before we go, which is, this audience, is going to probably be a lot of our brand retailer partners, probably some suppliers will log in, banks, financial institutions, but we all hope it gets to listeners outside of textile apparel who may be solving for some of these same applications in other industries, in other regions, with other forms of capital. So to anyone who's kind of joining this space, all of the above. What is the call to action? What would you like for listeners to hear? What have you not been able to say today that you'd like to say? And I'll start with Pauline, and then I'll have Siva, I'll have you with the final word. So Pauline, what is your call to action here, and what would you like to make sure the listeners are hearing out of this conversation today?
Yeah, I think it's just a really good example of, valuing what works, what we know works well, and acknowledging that we just need more of it. And as you said, we need to move out of the pilot phase. If this works and we can replicate it, that's where we should put our efforts. And, in other sectors which maybe don't have these types of programs yet, to develop them. I'm sure every industry has 10 best practices that can be implemented. It's a very kind of simple way to really scale energy efficiency, which is needed across industries, not just the apparel sector. So I think that's a key takeaway. This is something that really works. And sometimes you do need to test new opportunities to kind of make it scale. And that's why we're taking this direct to manufacturer approach. And really looking forward to seeing what that brings.
And you remind me that, in the regions and in the industrial parks and areas are other products being made that also could join this work because they're looking at the same types of initiatives that we're looking at. So I love that approach of really calling other industries to be paying attention as well too. All right, Dr. Siva, take us out. What do you want us to learn?
Yeah, you see, initially when I said that what is the differentiating factor, had we been only singular, we will not learn. We are multidisciplinary. Every different department people, chemical engineer, mechanical engineer, textile engineer, toxicologist, chemist, everyone are sitting together and are thinking of one solution before, and everyone are seeing it in different perspectives. And we are then learning, this can work there, it will easily work here. So complex technology, complex problems have simple solutions. And most of the point, what is difficult is identifying the simple solution. So I think the people out there who are not from apparel industry, they have to think that, this is not my technology, so it doesn't matter for me, is not what it is. Solutions come from out of the box. And we are talking about increasing the impact. It will not happen by doing same routine thing, what we were doing business as usual, and then improve further. It has to be transactional, translational, and transformational. All things need to be adapted as well. So think, why not? And what if? These two questions, if you ask yourself and get an answer, you will probably get to the solution somewhere. If it is happening there, why not for me? And how things are happening there. So these kind of technologies, innovations are happening by that. So I think these simple solutions can be adopted easily. Right? I like the Pauline what he said, 10 best practices for every industry. And this creating 10 best practices is not that simple. That's the reason why I love Linda. It's all complexities were made simple to look simple and made simple. Then you can adapt it. So for me, all listeners think, why not? What if? And what if I fail? That doesn't matter. Failure is not a problem. But then analyze it why it is. So adapt and then think. This is why I think I will say, and these technologies which are working for textile industry will definitely work for other industries as well. And we are importing the technologies which are working for other industries into our industry as well.
It's a great call to action, and we share the same vision. So with that, thank you so much for being with us today, and we look forward to the deeper collaboration and the continued work with you and other colleagues that join us in this work. Specifically, I think as we're focusing more on building these learning partnerships and networking collaborations with suppliers in Bangladesh. Thank you both for joining me, and thank you everyone else who has joined us today in this audience. And please share this podcast with anyone you think would be interested, and do get in touch with us at Apparel Impact Institute. You can find us on our website, apparelimpact.org, and info@apparelimpact.org, and we're happy to connect with anyone. Thank you so much.